Hello guys and gals, and welcome to my Nintendo's holiday buying guide. So the Nintendo Switch is a complicated device, and I wouldn't blame anyone for not knowing exactly what to get for your kid or your nephew or your niece. So anyway, first thing I want to go over is the versions. So there are currently 3 versions of the Nintendo Switch. There is the version 1. The version 1 is gratefully donated by my Wogatron. This is her. She has a nice decal on here of Pikachu, as you can see. Now, the version 1 Nintendo Switch came out in March 31st of 2017, so it's about 3 years old. Now, the version 2 pretty much looks identical. I've done a little bit of modification myself. Got a nice Mount Fuji with the waves, one of my favorite paintings. Now the V2 Switch is slightly different. It has a little bit of a better processor in it. And the processor has better power consumption, which results in a longer battery life. That's really the only difference between the 2 versions, is that this version is a little teeny bit faster, and it has better battery life because of that more power efficient processor. Now, there are many different options that you can get for controllers. One of your basic options is going to be your Nintendo Switch Pro controller. This is a very nice controller all around. It's actually one of my favorites. The only downside that I've had with this controller is the D-pad is not the best. So if you do enjoy playing those retro games which focus very heavily on the D-pad, I would suggest maybe picking up a different controller for those. One third-party controller, which is definitely one I would recommend, is the SN30 Pro Plus. As you can see, it's sort of in the design of a Super Nintendo controller, and but it has the little grips. It has all the shoulder buttons and everything, and the D-pad on this is amazing. Another option that you could go with, which is very retro, is you could get the Nintendo Switch GameCube adapter. The Nintendo Switch GameCube adapter is going to let you use any GameCube controller, including the infamous Wavebird. The Wavebird controller is probably one of the best Nintendo controllers that ever came out, and the first wireless controller at that. Now, this plugs into the Nintendo Switch dock, and then you plug your Wavebird adapter in here, and then you turn on your Wavebird and it works. Now, there are certain games that are not compatible with the GameCube controllers, and unfortunately the GameCube controllers are missing a shoulder button. So if you look here, you see there's 1, 2, and then there's only 1 on this side. So there are some games that it's not going to be the best for. But games like Smash Brothers, definitely a very fun game to use the GameCube controller on. There are also a lot of accessories that you can get for the Nintendo Switch. One of them that it comes with is a little controller that turns your Joy-Con, which this is the Joy-Con here, into a bigger controller. So for instance, you take these, you slide them on, and now you have yourself a full-size controller to use. Each one of these Joy-Con can actually be used individually as well. They actually come with a little strap that can be put right here, and you notice there's 2 buttons. Those are your L and R buttons for when you're playing in this configuration. Now obviously this is a very tiny controller, and if you've got big hands like me, it's like you not the greatest. Now there are some options to use controllers that you may already have. For instance, you might be surprised to find out that an Xbox controller works on the Nintendo Switch. And the way that I get the Xbox controller to work is through an adapter called the 8BitDo. This is a little device made by 8BitDo, and it plugs into the dock, and it allows you to connect basically one controller of any type that runs on Bluetooth. You can connect a Wii U controller, a Wii U Pro controller, you can connect the Xbox controller. There's really no limit as long as it has that form of connection. I believe it even has the ability to connect PlayStation controllers, although it's a little bit more complicated. There are other options though for your Nintendo Switch. So for instance, your Joy-Con slide onto the Nintendo Switch, allowing you to control it, but they're also very small. One option in particular is made by a company called Satisfye. Satisfye makes a grip for the Nintendo Switch. My lovely assistant is going to hand me the case.
Nope.
Alright, so this is the Satisfye case, and it comes with the Satisfye grip. As you can see here, it has room for several cartridges, and the grip itself fits in very snugly. Now what you do with the grip is you slide the grip onto the Nintendo Switch like that. Very satisfying, isn't it? And it gives you these big, meaty monsters that you can hold on to. It really allows you to play the Nintendo Switch a lot more efficiently in handheld mode. Also, there's always been an issue with the joystick, the thumbstick, being too close to your thumb, and you kind of, your thumb does this weird little like thing, and it looks like your thumb's broken. So what Satisfye did was they offset the right hand grip so that your thumb is further away from the Joy-Con, making it easier to use. Now, there are issues with the original Joy-Cons having a Joy-Con drift. It's something that usually comes up after about a year or so of playing, or quicker if you play a lot. And one way you can avoid this is to avoid the Joy-Cons entirely. One way to do that is to grab the Hori Split Pad Pro. The Hori Split Pad Pro slides onto the Nintendo Switch much the same way that the Joy-Cons do, except look how big and meaty they are. I mean, look at this little tiny thing compared to this big meaty monster. The joysticks are much larger, they have more travel, so especially if you play first-person shooter games like Splatoon or Call of Duty or any of those titles, having those bigger joysticks is going to give you an easier time aiming. They're also just much nicer in the hands, and it makes this amazing, handheld experience. They're quite possibly the best controllers for handheld mode. Now, there are some drawbacks to these controllers. They do not have batteries in them, and they do not work separately from the system. So they are a handheld only controller, and they do slightly drain the battery because they are actually running off of the system's battery. But as you can see, just an amazing look all around. They also have these programmable buttons in the back. There are other options for cases. One of the earliest options that came up was an option made by a company called Waterfield. Waterfield made this case, and it's an all leather case. Doesn't really cost that much. If you take a look at their website, they had handmade all their products in San Francisco. It has a nice little screen protector here. Put the Joy-Cons back on here. Now, obviously, the Hori Split Pad Pro is not really good for travel. They're huge, ginormous, makes the Nintendo Switch huge and ginormous, and it's difficult for it to fit inside of a case. But you'll see here that the Waterfield case fits the Nintendo Switch perfectly, has plenty of room for some accessories, some accessories in the back here. These are the little things I was talking about earlier for the Joy-Con. Let me go ahead and show you one of those real quick. So if you take your Joy-Con and you take your little doodad, you line up the minus and the minus, and you slide it on like so. Makes a nice little satisfying click, and you'll see that now you have two buttons on the top. So this is the way that they intend you to use it as a solo controller. I gotta say that, like I said, it's really small. When you're taking these things off, there is a locking clip here, so you're gonna want to make sure you disengage that locking clip before you slide upward. Otherwise, it's gonna be quite difficult. Now, for the actual game cartridges, I would recommend that you pick up some storage cases. You definitely don't want your dog or other animal to chew on them. There have been so many pictures online of dogs chewing up Nintendo Switch cartridges. I can't even show them all to you. Here are some options for Nintendo Switch carrying cases. I picked these up off of Alibaba. They were really cheap, like $2 or $3. Got a nice little cute Pikachu one. As you can see, it has room for the cartridges and also some SD cards. They also have several other options. They got the homie Yosh. They got Mario. They got Zelda, Breath of the Wild. They also have a black Zelda Breath of the Wild case, which is very cool. And they hold, I think it's 24. Let me just double check here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 apiece. So if you have 12 Nintendo Switch games or even less, it's a nice way to carry your Nintendo Switch games around. There are also different things for the Nintendo Switch that you can get, like Amiibo. Amiibo are little cute little statues or little fluffy things like this. This here is the dog from Yoshi's Crafted World and Yoshi's Woolly World. And he has a little Amiibo thing on his butt. Now, when you use your Amiibo in the game, there's actually a little spot on the Joy-Con you press your Amiibo to, and it recognizes it. It uses NFC, which is near field technology. And they come in little cutesy things like this and little statues like this. This is Samus Suit Zero from Metroid. Now, Nintendo has all sorts of crazy things that you can buy. There's companies out there making everything nowadays. This here is a grip that is also doubles as a keyboard. It comes with a little dongle that you plug into the Nintendo Switch dock, and allows you to connect this keyboard to your Nintendo Switch. You would slide your Joy-Cons onto this, much like you would anything else. This grip related. And it does have some mild little bumps back here, so you can have something to grip onto. I did find that it wasn't as useful as I thought, because there's not that many games on the Nintendo Switch that require typing. Plus there is no chat system on the Nintendo Switch yet, which is unfortunate. Another thing I would like to go over with you guys is Nintendo Labo. So Nintendo Labo is this really cool thing that Nintendo made, where you buy a kit that comes with cardboard, and you put the cardboard together. Very fun family activity. If you're looking for something to do with your kids, something that you can spend time together on, Nintendo Labo is definitely one of those things. And this is one of the creations that you can make in Nintendo Labo. It's the piano. Now, this is one of the things that I want to talk to you about, the differences between the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch Lite. The Nintendo Switch Lite does not have Joy-Con. They are hard wired, essentially. They're created in the system. And to use things like Nintendo Labo, you need Joy-Con, because the Joy-Con slide into the system and actually function as part of the Nintendo Labo creation. If you want to play Nintendo Labo, you have to get the Nintendo Switch full version, the one that comes with the docking station. There's also a VR headset, and the VR headset also requires the Joy-Con. So those games in particular, if you are looking forward to getting those for your kid, I would definitely recommend that you pick up the full version, the Nintendo Switch version 2. I don't recommend getting the version 1 anymore, because the version 1 is about 3 years old at this point. And what I mean by that is that as things get older, they degrade, and batteries inside of the original Nintendo Switches that were 3 years old are now 3 years old. Batteries tend to only last around 3 years of constant use. So getting yourself one of the newer models, I think, is important. And what I'm going to do at this point is you're going to see something flash up on the screen. It's going to be the picture of the new box. So I'm going to put the old box on this side, I'm going to put the new box on this side, and you guys are going to see the difference between them, so that when you go out to the store and you go to purchase your Nintendo Switch, you can very easily tell the difference between the old and the new unit. Now, this is the Nintendo Switch dock that comes with the system. Unfortunately, the Nintendo Switch Lite does not dock. That is one of the very big downsides of the Lite, is that you can't put it up on the TV. I will, however, say that Nintendo Switch Lite seems to be a little bit more sturdy of a system, because it doesn't have those Joy-Con connections. And chances are you may have an easier time with like a younger child who can't take care of his or her stuff very well, because that system seems like it would take a little bit more punishment before it broke. So the Nintendo Switch dock has an HDMI connector and a power connector. And it's very simple. On the bottom of your Nintendo Switch is a connector. There is also a notch right here, and the notch lines up with the notch on the inside of the system. to keep you from being able to jam it down in the wrong way. You take your Nintendo Switch and you slide it down on the notch, and you'll actually feel it kind of push into place. And then once it's connected completely, you're charging your system, and it's also now hooked up to your TV. One thing that I would definitely recommend, especially if you dock your system a lot, is to get yourself a tempered glass screen protector. I installed one on Woogie Switch, and I also installed one on mine. And the reason why I did that is because the Nintendo Switch's screen is not made out of glass. The Nintendo Switch's screen is actually made out of plastic. Now, the reason why they did this was because plastic is harder to shatter. If you drop a big piece of plastic, chances are it's not going to shatter. It might crack, but it's not going to shatter and get all those little spider webs all over it. And it's also not going to hurt you if a little piece of the glass comes off. The downside to plastic, however, is that it's much softer. So if I can make a demonstration here, glass is harder than metal. If I take this piece of metal and scratch it all over the screen, it does nothing. But if I take this piece of plastic and scratch this piece of metal and scratch it all over the plastic screen, it's going to scratch it up like crazy. Because metal is harder than plastic, but glass is harder than metal. Glass on the Mohs hardness scale is, I think, is like a 7, like a 6.5, 7. And I think the hardest that a piece of metal can be is, even if it's highly refined, very sharp, it's like a 6.5. And you might be asking yourself, well, why does my fingernail scratch my glass? Well, your fingernail's not harder than glass either. But a lot of the times what happens is you get sand or something that is harder than the glass stuck underneath your fingernail, and when you rub your fingernail across the screen, the sand, which might even be made out of diamonds for all you know, a little tiny itty bitty fleck of diamond, which is a hardness way greater than glass, goes right across your glass and scratches. You know, diamond rings and stuff can do that too, if you happen to be engaged or married. So now I want to take you through the process of teaching you about the Nintendo Switch Online service. I did do a little research in advance and prepared a video for that. So this one's actually going to be on my computer, so I can show you the website and all the features.
So as I was talking about, these are the Nintendo Switch Online plans. As you can see, they have 1 month for $3.99. They have 3 months for $7.99, and 12 months for $19.99, which is without a doubt the best value if you're going by yourself. Now, the family plan in particular, if you happen to, let's say you have more than one Switch in the household, or maybe your brother has a Switch and you have a Switch, and your nephew has a Switch. You can all hop on the same plan. I think it's up to 8 people, and it's a very good deal. 12 months for $34.99. There's a lot of things that you get access to for being on the plan. So first off, you get access to the retro store. Let's see, which is Super Nintendo and Nintendo Online. So basically, you get access to a large number of original games for the NES, and original games for the Super NES. The included games are here. So, we got Super Mario World, Super Mario Bros. 2, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Kart, a lot of classics. Quite a lot of really good games on here. Super Metroid, Star Fox, F-Zero, Breath of Fire, that's one of my favorites. Obviously, Link to the Past, that's just a classic. And then down here is the NES games. So your NES games are the original Metroid. They got the classics like Super Mario Bros., Legend of Zelda, Super Mario Bros. 3, which is one of the best ones on the NES, I think. Dr. Mario, who didn't play that classic old sort of Tetris-y type game from the old days. Blaster Master, that's a very fun game if you've never played that. They actually have a remake of it on the Nintendo Switch, but the original holds up just as well. Of course, the crazy Super Mario Bros. 2, Punch-Out, which is has been changed, unfortunately. They took out Mike Tyson and they put in Mr. Dream. Not really sure why they felt the need to change a 30, 40-year-old game. As you can see, a very nice little list of games. And as long as you have the online service, you can play those games. There are also 2 controllers that you can purchase that work with the Nintendo Switch, which is the SNES controller and the NES controllers. There are also other options that you can go for those, and I'm going to go over those later. But these are the official options, and it's kind of a fun little thing to do. The Nintendo Switch Online service also has other features. For instance, you get a save cloud data. Save cloud data is actually very useful. I had to replace my Switch a while back, and I was able to just go ahead and re-download everything. And then on top of that, we have 2 Switches in the house, so sometimes we need to transfer save games, and it's been a savior. You can move, like I said, you can move them between your systems as well, which is very nice. Aside from the save cloud data and the NES Online, there's also the online play. So certain games in particular are going to require Nintendo Online to be able to play online. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is one of them, Animal Crossing, Splatoon, Smash Brothers. So it's a healthy little list here. Not all the games require Nintendo Switch Online to play online. Some of the like free-to-play games actually will play without it. So this is the special offers section of the Nintendo Online. As I said, they have these controllers available for you, but there's also these little special games that you can play. So for instance, they have this Super Mario Brothers 35, and Super Mario Brothers 35 is this really interesting game where you play against 35 other players, or 34 other players, and you send enemies to each other, trying to get each other killed, which is really cool. And then there's also Tetris 99, which is one of the most fun Tetris games I've played in a long time. You play against 99 other Tetris players in a battle to see who can basically win. And it is, I don't know why it's so fun, but it is just so fun. It really is. There's also some gear that you can get in Splatoon. You get a silk rug in Animal Crossing. Nothing super special there, but something to grab. And there's a lot of little caveats about the Nintendo's online service. One thing I would recommend is that you don't go with a family membership with anyone that you don't trust, because essentially there's what is kind of called like the head of the household or something, and the head of the household controls the entire family. So if you're in the family membership and you don't trust the person who is the head of your household, you might not want to do that. And just going with random people online, also the same thing. It's a little bit, it's kind of shady. But if you're just like mom, dad, pop, son, daughter, etc., brother, sister, you're probably gonna be fine. And if you're the one that's the head of the household person, then it's your responsibility to make sure things are kept up. Let's see. So you don't have to automatically renew. You can just buy 1 month, or 3 months, or a year, and you can just turn it off. I have mine set up to automatically renew it. I don't really see why not. So the NES games can be played offline for up to 7 days. So that just means that you have to have logged in at some point in the past 7 days, and you can still play them. They don't have to be online all the time. There is a pretty cool voice chat that you can do. It works through the smartphone app, so it's kind of jankety, but it is actually really fun. I've played Mario Kart 8 online, and the smartphone just automatically connects you to a voice group, and everybody's chatting in there. It's actually pretty cool to smack talk. So that's pretty much it for the Nintendo Online services. I really just wanted to go over this to sort of demystify it a little bit. Maybe help some people understand what's involved, why you need to buy it, what you get for buying it, etc. What the best plans are. So here's a little bullet point thing that it goes over. So just to recap, you can't play certain online games if you're not subscribed. the Nintendo Switch Online NES system and the Super NES system. Those are the classic games. They come with the NES Online, so you don't have that if you are not subscribed. The Nintendo Switch Online app, I'm pretty sure that is the one that lets you do the voice chat. Save Data Cloud, that is actually a very important service. If for some reason your Nintendo Switch were to die on you, you'd lose all your save files. So having that Save Data Cloud backup is actually very, 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 very nice. It's probably the one thing in particular out of everything on here that should make you say, okay, that's probably a good idea. Everything else is just kind of frosting on the cake. You know, the NES, the Super NES, that's all frosting. The Save Data Cloud is probably the main reason why anyone is going to grab Nintendo Switch Online, besides the online gameplay. And then the special offers, they're not exactly the greatest in the world, but if you want to grab one of those controllers, get some of these member-only deals. The Tetris 99 game, I think you can actually purchase now, but it's free with Tetris 99 with Nintendo Switch Online. This one, however, is going to go away on March 31st, which is very sad. I think they should keep it permanently.
Oh yeah, by the way, mini shout out for myself. I am Savannah Stevens on YouTube. Please subscribe to me. That is my Switch right there with the Pokemon stuff on it. Just a mini shout out because I felt like I needed it. I don't know why.
Alright, so one thing I do want to talk about is Bluetooth. The Nintendo Switch does not have a Bluetooth sort of standard connector. There are options out there to have a Bluetooth connector, but you're going to have to go with something like Genki or one of the third parties that connects to the bottom. Another thing that I want to talk about is memory cards. So your Nintendo Switch is only going to come with a very small amount of memory, and especially if you plan on buying digital games, you're going to need to purchase a memory card. So the memory card is located on the underside of the kickstand. And right here clicks out. Now, the memory card in particular that I have in this one is a 128. I think I have a 400 in one of the other Nintendo Switches. What you want to do when it comes to the memory cards is you just want to go with a name brand. You don't want to get something that doesn't have a name brand on it. The name brands that you want to look for in particular are SanDisk, Kingston, Sony, I think one of the other ones. But basically, you know, make sure that it actually has a name brand on it. Make sure you're purchasing it from a legitimate retailer. If you're purchasing it from somewhere like Amazon, make sure you're purchasing it from Amazon and not from a reseller. The reason why I recommend this is because even if you do manage to get a fake or a damaged micro SD card, if you purchase it legitimately through Amazon or through a reseller who supports, you know, who actually will take care of you, they're going to replace it. If the SD card ever breaks, if you buy it legitimately, you're going to have basically a lifetime warranty. SanDisk and Kingston and Sony pretty much offer lifetime warranties on their cards, and if they ever die, they're just going to replace it for you for free. So there's no reason to go with one of these cheapity cheap cards. You have no idea what they are. Chances are, 9 times out of 10, when you see like a 512 gigabyte micro SD card with no brand name on it and it doesn't tell you anything about it, it's most likely a tiny little SD card that somebody has hacked into to make it seem like it's a larger card. They basically a little painted 512 gigabyte on there like a screen printer, and they made it so that you think it's one. But the thing is that when you put it in your Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo Switch isn't dumb. It tries to write that data to the card, and the card doesn't have a place to write the data to. And so it immediately says that the card is corrupted. So save yourself a little bit of trouble, get yourself a legitimate SD card. Go with a larger size than you think, because chances are the video games are going to fill it up fast, especially if you plan to do a digital library. Now, if you do a mainly physical library, there are still going to be downloads and updates that you're going to need. So even though you might not need the largest SD card, I would still recommend that if you go with physical, I would still recommend getting an SD card of some type. at least maybe about 128 gigabyte card. Because a lot of the games nowadays, especially like Doom, they have like 13 gigabyte downloads on top of the cartridge, and that's going to make it very difficult for you to maintain your storage space. Not to mention, you're also going to have screenshots, videos, and save files that all need to be stored as well. This is what the Nintendo Switch game cases look like. There's really not much to them in general. When you open them up inside, sometimes there is a pretty graphic, and sometimes there's not. There's no manuals these days, which is actually very sad, and I kind of miss them. Alright, so one thing that I definitely want to talk to you guys about is sharing your games between family members. So one thing, for instance, that I thought would be really cool is when I bought my Nintendo Switch, which had a lot of games on it already, I'd be able to share all those games with Woody. Well, come to find out that there is a main Switch and a sub-Switch, okay? And what that means is that one Switch is considered the main owner, and the other Switches are all like little satellites. Now, if you happen to be on the main Switch, you can play any game that's in the library without any problem. However, if you are on the Switch that is considered the satellite Switch, the satellite Switch has to log into the internet, it has to check to make sure that the main Switch is not playing any games, and if the main Switch is not playing any games, it will allow you to play a game that is on the main Switch's account. I found this to be very problematic because a lot of the times Mogi would like to play while she was in the car, and we would have to hook the Nintendo Switch up to the internet for her to be able to play any of those games. If you don't happen to have a phone that has a tethering option that allows you to connect, Wi-Fi that way, basically you're kaput. You can't play any of those games while you're out and about. It really sucks. So what I had to do was I actually had to, for very specific games that she loved to play, I had to purchase those for her directly on her own Nintendo account. That way it wouldn't have to check whether she was online or not and whether those games were hers or not, and go through that whole process. Now, one option that you could do is you could make sure that the one Nintendo Switch that is traveling is the main Nintendo Switch, and the one that stays home is the satellite, because obviously you're going to have internet when you're at the house, so that should be fine. I also found a workaround, which was essentially both Switches could be playing at the same time, but one of them had to be offline. So obviously the satellite Switch has to go online to check to see if you have an internet connection, but the main Switch does not. So what you do is you take your main Switch and you put it into airplane mode. You open up whatever game you want, you play it, and it doesn't go online to share that you are actually playing a game. Then when the satellite Switch goes online to check and see if the main Switch is playing a game, there's nothing. And then your satellite Switch can play the game at the same time as the main Switch. Now, if you have a family and you have multiple Nintendo Switches, it might be a better idea if you go with the physical games, because that way they can be very easily shared between siblings. Like, for instance, say your sibling wants to play Super Mario 3D All-Stars, but you only have one copy. Super Mario 3D All-Stars is shareable if you have the cartridge. If you don't have the cartridge, you got to do that digital thing I was talking about earlier, which is kind of a pain in the butt.
So when you actually have your Nintendo Switch, the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to update it. So you're going to want to go over to the System Settings, and then you're going to want to go down to System, and you're going to go to System Update, and mine is already up to date, but yours is going to say, okay, we need to update your Switch. Now, if you haven't connected to your Wi-Fi yet, you're going to want to do that at this point. It's probably going to pop up and say, we need internet access. And let that run its course, let it get you fully updated. Another thing I'd recommend doing is turning on the console battery percentage. It really helps you know exactly how much time you have left, as opposed to a vague indicator, which sort of tells you where you are. Another option that you may want to turn on is the mute when headphones are disconnected. So like say you're playing in an airport or something, or at school, and you're not supposed to be. and you want to make sure that your Nintendo Switch doesn't get super loud the moment that someone disconnects your headphones, you turn this on. So what it does is, as soon as your headphones are disconnected, it mutes the Switch, so that you won't be blaring Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild music or something. Another thing that you're going to want to do is turn on the in controllers and sensors, you're going to want to turn on the Pro controller wired communication. So what this does is it allows you to connect a wired controller to the Switch dock. There are a lot of wired controllers out there. They're cheap options. They're not exactly the best controllers on the market, but they're going to get you by. You can also connect your Nintendo Switch Pro controller that way to the Nintendo Switch dock, and it will communicate wired, which is helpful when the battery is dead. Another thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to update your controllers. So the Joycon and the Nintendo Switch Pro controller both get firmware updates rather regularly, and depending on when you have actually purchased your Nintendo Switch, like say you got an older model which has been sitting on the shelf for a while, those Joy-Cons are going to need to be updated. Same thing with the Pro controller. If that Pro controller's been sitting on the shelf for a little while, it's going to need an update as well. They do have to be connected to your Nintendo Switch before you can update them. Not wired or anything, but they just have to at least be connected, as a controller that is usable. Another thing you can do is you can come in here and you can change the theme. I believe by default it's basic white, which is blinding, and I really kind of prefer the basic black. If you're buying this for someone as a gift, you could also maybe go through the process of making them a Mii. So when you create a Mii, you can actually make one that looks like somebody. Like, for instance, this is one that I made to look like my girlfriend. And yes, I call her amazing, because she is amazing. You can add users to the Nintendo Switch. You're probably going to want to add one for every person that's going to use the Nintendo Switch. If you have multiple Nintendo Switches, you're going to have to make Nintendo accounts for those people. You don't need Nintendo accounts if they are not going to play on a different Nintendo Switch. Because all the games that are on that Nintendo Switch are playable by anyone on that Nintendo Switch. But the problem comes into play is when you have two Nintendo Switches, it then starts to look for an account for those users to see if they have access to those games. It's a little complicated. It might be better, honestly, if you plan on getting like two Nintendo Switches, say one for you have two sons or a son and a daughter, and you want to get one for each of them. I'd recommend getting physical games, because physical games are going to be easier for them to manage. Because, for instance, if you get one digital game and you get the other a digital game, they're going to, maybe for some reason they want to play on their brother's Switch or something, or they want to show them something on the game. They're not going to be able to load their game over without logging into their Nintendo account and a bunch of other annoying things. Another thing that you're going to have here is the save cloud data. So your save cloud data is going to have access to all the games that you've played that it can back up. And it's very sad for me to say this, but some games are not compatible. So for instance, we've got a lot of games on here. Overwatch and Dark Souls Remastered are not supported. There are other games that are not supported as well, and unfortunately there's nothing we can do about that. Internet is basically just your Wi-Fi, but you can also connect an Ethernet adapter, the one that I showed earlier. It's fairly simple to do, not much to it. Parental controls is going to be for you parents who want to keep a strict eye on your kid. There's an app that you can get on your phone, which allows you to, see how much time they've been playing, set a shutdown time, a whole bunch of stuff like that. Don't be too strict with this stuff. Kids like to play. But at the same time, if they're going crazy with it, set a bedtime and stuff like that. Also, you know, this is a cool way for parents to go the opposite direction and just kind of see what your kid plays the most. You know, when you look at this, it's going to tell you how much time they spend in these games. And if, you know, your kid is playing, you know, this specific game the most, you know that that's something that they really like. And you can use that to gain insight. That's pretty much it for the settings. I want to show you guys the Nintendo Switch Online. So here we have the various. This is the little home page. They kind of have these little news articles here, and so the services that they offer are here. The special offers. So, for instance, you can download Super Mario Brothers 35. I'm gonna go ahead and download that. Why not? Got a little Mario running there. Boot me back. Alright, so the NES system is here. And you can boot up either of these. Let's boot up a classic. Why not? Just a downright classic. Oh, of course, there's an update. Can't be very large for this software, I'll tell you that much. Look at that. Magic of YouTube. It's finished. Hey. Look at the sound effects. Alright, so let's grab just a downright classic and let's go murder some stuff for just a second. We're not going to take that long in this. Love that music. I'll tell you what, they got some good music. Did I lose my sword? Oh, I don't got a sword yet. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. Look at my derpy face. That's a really derpy face there. I'm a little scared. Anyway, as you can see, you can play everything from the classics to the brand new stuff, which is very fun. I think a lot of people would get a kick out of seeing their little kid, you know, play a classic like Legend of Zelda. They even have Link to the Past on there, which if I had to choose between the two, I think Link to the Past is the better of the two. But this one is certainly very fun. And, you know, it's something to stimulate the kids' brains, right? Alright, so moving on, let's go ahead and exit here. Now I want to show you guys that you can create suspend points, and you can save your game at any point. So unlike the original NES, where you died and that was pretty much it, you can save a little bit easier. Now granted, the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo actually didn't have save points a lot because they just didn't have the ability to save. It wasn't until much later that they came out with technology that was much easier to make the save files. And even, you know, even back then, the battery could go bad on the cartridge, and you'd lose all your data. You know, they got to work around it a little bit because they did those passwords. You know, a lot of the NES and the Super Nintendo games had passwords back in the day. All right, and you can obviously go back to the game selection screen. And you can exit from here as well. Now, don't forget that when you purchase a physical game, you want to press the start button, or the plus button rather, and you want to go down to My Nintendo Rewards, and you want to earn the gold points for the cartridge. Now, I've already collected the gold points for this, and unfortunately, some games, like this one, was expired when I bought it, so I didn't get any gold points. You can spend those gold points in the store. I want to show you guys real quick what the gold coins are. So let's say, for instance, I went to Great Deals, and I see a game in here that I want to buy. So let's look at Overcooked. All right. Now I have Proceed to Purchase, and right here it says Redeem Points. All right. So we're going to click Redeem Points. And I have 154 at the moment, and 154 translates to $1.54. So I'm going to apply those to my purchase. And just like that, now I have only $3.45 to pay. The gold coins are also spendable on the Nintendo website for various things like discount coupons and wallpapers and stuff. It's kind of cool. 75% off for that game is pretty good. It's a fun little game where you run around trying to cook things and not burn your kitchen down. It's rather hilarious. All right, what else can we go over here? So the controllers, you can actually find the controllers when they get lost. It will try to connect to them, and the ones that it is able to connect to, you can pull them. So for instance, this one it found, which is, I think it's like over there somewhere. But when I hit the button, it will actually vibrate, and it will let me know where it is. Helpful, especially if you have kids who are prone to losing things. That's pretty much it on the console itself. I don't really think there's much else to go over. You can go all the way over here and you can check all your games.
So if you're out and about, you're trying to buy a Nintendo Switch for your kid, you know, what do you get? Like I said, I would recommend getting the version 2 Switch, which I've already shown you a picture of. I would also recommend that you get the micro SD card, because they're going to need that extra space. They're probably going to need some type of external controller. Now, you don't have to go with the most expensive option like the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. There are cheaper options out there, and if you're worried that your kid might break it, you know, go with the cheapest one like the Power A 1999 controller. But if you want to get a nice one, or if you happen to already have one, like say you already have an Xbox controller sitting around and you want to use that, you know, you can grab the 8-bit DOE adapter and you can connect your Xbox controller. So another option for the Nintendo Switch dock is actually very portable. It's called the Genki Covert dock, and it's made by a company called Human Things. And I actually just picked this up the other day. It looks like a regular cell phone charger, right? I mean, it doesn't look very large at all. But as you can see, it has the USB-C connector. It has the USB-A, which allows you to plug in devices, like for instance, a wired controller. And it also has the HDMI port here. Now, why is this so cool? Well, you can carry around with you. So, you know, say you are headed over to your best friend's house and he doesn't have a Nintendo Switch, but you do. And you want to, you know, play Mario Kart on the big TV with him. Bam. Pull it out of your pocket and you can hook it straight up to the Nintendo Switch and the TV. Maybe you're going over to your family's for the holidays and you think it would be really cool to play one of the party games, like Jack's Party Games, I think that's what they're called. And you want to put that up on the TV. Well, here you go. You can put this in your backpack. You just carry it around with you wherever you go. And, you know, when you have an opportunity to put something on the TV that you would like to do, some spontaneous Smash Brothers tournament or something like that, here's your option. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed this Nintendo's Buyer's Guide. is a very complicated world out there for the Nintendo. And if you have any questions about the Nintendo Switch specifically, I'd be happy to answer them. There is more to go over about the Nintendo Switch than I can cover in just a small video like this. I will put a link to the review for the Genki Covert dock, as well as another video that I did on how to avoid purchasing fake micro SD cards. Anyway guys, I thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please like, comment, and subscribe.
He's a little booty. He's a little booty, aren't you? That's a cute little booty.